Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the high-stakes world of artificial intelligence. Companies are betting their entire futures on AI, but there's a pretty shocking truth hiding just behind all the hype. Most of these massive trillion-dollar gambles are failing. So we're going to figure out why, and more importantly, what it really takes to win. So let's just start with a number that's, well, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. We're talking about $900 billion. That's how much companies are wasting every single year on digital projects that just don't work out. And as we're about to see, a huge and growing piece of that pie is now AI. And that nearly trillion-dollar waste, it's not just a few big companies flaming out. This is a systemic problem. A truly staggering 7 out of every 10 of these expensive, super complex digital projects, they fail. That's a 70% failure rate across the board. So you have to ask, what on earth is going on here? Well, this creates this huge paradox, right? Because on one hand, you have nearly every company on the planet betting its future on AI. But on the other hand, the data is screaming that the vast majority of them are walking straight into a massive, costly, and honestly predictable failure. Just look at the scale of this bet. It is immense. 94% of organizations are already running digital initiatives, and 83%, they're not just playing around with AI. They've made it a core part of their strategy. This isn't just an experiment anymore. For most companies, this is survival. Which leads us to the big question. If practically everyone is doing this, why is it so incredibly hard to get right? What is it about AI projects specifically that creates this perfect storm for failure? And that's really the answer. AI projects create a unique, perfect storm of challenges. It's this combination of 3 distinct forces. We're talking speed, uncertainty, and complexity that just completely overwhelms the old school ways companies manage big projects. First up, you have the sheer speed of it all. Traditional IT projects, they plan in years, maybe quarters. But with AI, what's state-of-the-art today might be obsolete in just a few months. That makes any kind of long-term planning or budgeting incredibly difficult, to say the least. Second, there's this fundamental uncertainty that's totally different. With normal software, right, you code a set of rules and you know what you're going to get. With AI, the whole point is that the system learns and evolves on its own. Now, that can lead to amazing, unexpected results, but it also introduces a massive wildcard that rigid project plans just can't cope with. And finally, there's complexity. And I'm not talking about the code. I'm talking about the people. To get an AI project right, you need seamless teamwork between your data scientists, your IT teams, and your business leaders. And let's be honest, these are groups that often have completely different goals, different ways of measuring success, and frankly, they often speak different professional languages. This quote from the Harvard Business Review just nails it. AI transformation without executive sponsorship is like climbing Everest without oxygen. It's not just another tech project. It's a massive organizational challenge that has to be driven from the very, very top. Okay, so if the technology itself is creating this storm of speed and uncertainty, what's the solution? Well, here's the twist. You might be surprised to learn it's not actually about getting more or even better technology. With all these intense technical hurdles, it's totally natural to think, okay, we just need smarter tech to manage all this. But what if that's exactly the wrong way to look at the problem? In fact, deep research from PwC shows that the companies that are really succeeding, they do the complete opposite. They flip the script. They don't start with the shiny new AI tool. They start with a really clear business problem that they're trying to solve. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the matter. Success with AI, when you boil it all down, isn't really about how sophisticated your algorithms are. It's about your organizational culture. It's about how your people work together, how they communicate, and how they adapt to constant change. That is the real foundation for success. So this brings us to the real solution, the thing that winning companies have figured out. The most effective way to guarantee a return on your AI investment isn't just about buying better tech. It's about investing in your people, often through what researchers call a continuous communication and training program. And look, this isn't just some feel-good theory. The data on this is crystal clear. Companies that actually build out comprehensive training programs for their people see a 3 times greater return on their AI investments. That is a massive, game-changing difference. So why is that ROI so incredibly high? Well, because the single biggest barrier to adopting any new technology isn't the tech itself, it's the fear and resistance from people. A solid continuous education program reduces that friction by a whopping 76%, and it helps turn that natural skepticism into new skills. And you can see these two different paths play out so clearly in business history. Take Kodak. They actually invented the digital camera, but their culture was so obsessed with protecting their old film business that they just couldn't adapt. Now compare that to Netflix, which built its entire culture around using AI to create new value, saving over $1 billion a year and just completely dominating its market. Okay, so you obviously want to be Netflix, not Kodak. I think we can all agree on that. But how do you actually make sure your organization follows that path? Let's distill everything we've just talked about into a clear, actionable roadmap for success. It really comes down to three core principles. First, don't try to boil the ocean. Start with a couple of small, focused pilot projects to prove the value and build some real momentum. Second, and this is the most important one, you have to invest in your people. Treat training and communication like it's critical infrastructure, not just some optional add-on. And finally, lead with a clear vision, but stay agile enough to adapt as you learn and as the tech changes. So that leaves us with one final critical question. As you look at your own company's AI strategy, just ask yourself this. Are you focused on building better technology, or are you focused on building a better prepared, more adaptable team to actually use it? Because the answer to that question will likely define whether you win or lose this trillion-dollar gamble.